everybody. Welcome to the It's Beyond Me podcast. It's your girl, Drift Nasty.
Freddie T.
And we're going to be discussing what happened to Tyre Nichols.
Well, for those of you who don't know much about the case, a guy got pulled over. 5 cops brutally abused him. And to cut it short, he's dead. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, 5 Memphis cops, all black cops, killed a black man. And from the best I can see it's probably something like blunt force trauma or something like that. Something to where he died from trauma to his head. You can go and see the video. We'll post the link down in the bottom.
Yeah.
So that you can go and check out the video.
Check out the full video. It's just too graphic for me to put on here. So. Because of YouTube regulations, but.
Yeah, it was pretty rough to watch. I'm not gonna lie. And I think that it shows still how we got a long ways to go as far as police brutality goes in this country. They definitely go outside of their power. They like to flex too hard. They abuse their authority. They like to throw up how, the police work for us. But I don't really believe that to be true. Yeah, our tax dollars pay for them. Okay, yeah, if you want to say it like that, facts. But they're not working for us. They're not working in our favor. It's just what makes them, the mayor, the higher-ups of the town look good, basically. So,
in light of the horrific circumstances surrounding the death of Tyre Nichols, it is absolutely incumbent upon me, your chief, to address the status of what the Memphis Police Department is doing, has done, and will continue to do in furtherance of finding truth in this tragic loss, ensuring we communicate with honesty and transparency, and that there is absolute accountability for those responsible for Tyre's death. As you know, 5 Memphis police officers were terminated last week. These officers were found to be directly responsible for the physical abuse of Mr. Nichols. Concurrent within that investigation, other MPD officers are still under investigation for department policy violations. Some infractions are less egregious than others. As this investigation and other external investigations continue, I promise full and complete cooperation from the Memphis Police Department with the Department of Justice, the FBI, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and the Shelby County District Attorney's Office to determine the entire scope of facts that contributed to Tyre Nichols' death.
The whole case, to me, it's just extraordinary because, it seems like every few years something like this happens. We've had endless situations with officers and the African-American community. I just kind of feel like, it as many steps as we move forward, we always end up moving 20 steps back. And somehow, some way, this whole situation ends up being racial.
Y'all, we really think that because we elect black officials and we have black police officers, that all of a sudden violence against black people, especially black men, is just going to go away. We must be crazy. Because this issue is systemic. That means it's rooted in all the systems. And those systems are more powerful than the few black folks we got in them. Those systems are designed to also indoctrinate these black folks to commit violence against their own communities. Black people are not safe in this country. We got nowhere to go. We can't even be protected by our own people.
I saw the video of the police beating Tyre Nichols to death, and there are no words left to be said that haven't been said. There's nothing new you can say when something happens every day in a country. But I do hope this opens a conversation to people understanding what systemic racism is and why we say this is not something that can be reformed. Putting black
police officers, putting Latino police officers, putting people who look like the people that they beat and brutalize within a system that teaches them to beat and brutalize other people like themselves will not solve the problem. The institution is racist. That's what systemic racism means. Don't use the fact that these are 5 black cops as an opportunity to take out the racism of it all. No, this is something about policing in this country, is that brutality and violence is inherently part of the job, and it doesn't matter who it is they have inflicted on marginalized people. And no, it is not lost upon me the quickness with which they were willing to reprimand, charge, and fire these black police officers that killed a black man. It's not lost upon me the reason why they came out and did all these condemnations of this is the worst violence we'll ever see before the video was released, because they are willing to paint black police officers as brutal. However, I have no interest in defending them. Okay? They don't care about the racism of it all when they're in an institution that is teaching them to brutalize black people. They don't care about the unfairness of that when they are brutalized on the street. I am not going to go out of my way to defend black cops by pointing out that the institution that they support is racist towards them, that it doesn't give them the highest amount of favor when it goes about protecting them from responsibility for brutalizing and killing black people. Nah, fuck them.
When the story initially dropped, I was like, this should be interesting. Because this time you got 5 black cops killing a black subject. So what I'm thinking is that this story isn't going to get the same amount of coverage as a story that consisted of, white cops killing a black subject. White cops killing a black subject. That's typically the narrative that the media puts out there. It's worse now. It's worse than white cops killing a black subject, because the media was able to flip this situation and say that 5 black cops killing a black subject is still racist.
Said, which is weird to me because like right now it's 5 black cops and a black victim. So
and still, still they want to holler out, oh well, it's systemic racism. Some form of it comes back to racism. It's not about racism. It's about police brutality.
I mean, I do admit, yes, the victim in this situation, there's some stuff he could have done different, because he shouldn't have ran, and he should have.
He didn't comply.
He should have just complied to what they were asking. But at the same time, you've got 5 cops, 1 guy.
Yeah,
there was too much. They did way too much, and they beat the hell out of him for no reason. I mean, even if they try and say, well, he ran, yeah, but you hit him with a baton and you kicked him and you punched him. Like, come on, man. And you peppered him. And
they pepper sprayed him like a good 2-3 times.
And they tased them. Like it's ridiculous. It's excessive force, and I fail to understand. I'm kind of interested to see how they're gonna justify this one, because I
don't think they're gonna justify it, because it's kind of gonna go away after they feel like they've pleased the public, because they're charging the 5 cops with 2nd-degree murder, and they were part of a unit on the Memphis police force called Scorpion Unit.
Yeah, and certainly this is a significant move here by the police chief in Memphis to do this. And this was something that community members wanted. And of course, Ben Crump and the family of Tyre Nichols wanted. And today, the police chief granting them their requests, their wishes. Let me read to you what the police chief said in her decision to do this. She says that in the process of listening intently to the family of Tyre Nichols, community leaders, and the uninvolved officers who have done quality work in their assignments, it is in the best interest of all to permanently deactivate the Scorpion unit. The officers currently assigned to the unit agree unreservedly with the next step. Now, the Scorpion unit was created to basically target violent areas of Memphis. And what it stands for is the Street Crimes Operation to Restore Peace in Our Neighborhood. And the mayor and the police chief here are launching it in November of 2021, and mostly intended to focus on homicides and robberies. They drive around in unmarked cars, and as we saw in the video, very aggressively, what they did to Tyre Nichols, pulling him out of the car, throwing him to the ground. And Ben Crump, of course, talking about the culture of this unit. And that very much is in focus now as all of these investigations continue, Pam.
I understand at the end of the day, they were sent to dangerous areas, but still the excessive force makes me believe that there was a lack of training in this situation, because it makes
There
no sense.
always is.
Because
they barely get trained at all before they're set out there.
Because that's the problem. The guy wasn't, because the guy wasn't armed, so it kind of it gets me pretty infuriated that I look at it and I'm like, instead of people concentrating on the fact that we should get better training for our officers so they're not too trigger happy or they're not too scared to go into these areas, but we're more interested in throwing in the race card and saying, oh, that's not the situation. The situation at hand is that a family has lost their son. He won't be replaced. And at the end of the day, when it all comes down to it, these cops, they I don't know what was going through their mind when they did it, but they were probably doing what they normally do every night, honestly. And
it's just a lot.
And it's just, it's a lot. It's not to say every police officer is bad, but there's a chunk that makes everybody look bad.
It happens a lot. I also want to point out, just because of somebody who's experienced things and whose family has been through things, that it's not only the black community going through these things. I don't really feel like we should be boxing it up into a section to where it's all about race and things like that, because this is a people problem. It's not a black people problem, a white people problem, brown people problem. And the reason I'm saying that it's not necessarily a racism thing is because me and my family have experienced things also with the police doing us dirty and grimy. My grandfather, he was painted out to be this big time drug dealer, acting like he served multiple counties throughout Central Florida, blah, blah, blah. You can look it up. It's there, Larry Judy. And they took his whole house from him. He had to do his time in prison. They tried to get his wife as well, my step-grandma. She had to do house arrest for a long time. She had to sell a lot of their belongings and things just to be able to give him money while he was locked up. My family is poor. My mom's been wrongly arrested. She got beat up by a cop in jail, and they came home. She left face normal, come home, had scratches on her face, and she told me that a male officer beat her up in booking. And so she got out and she made a report on that. Well, she told him, she was like, well, it should be on video because it was in booking. So they go investigate, go look for this video, and then say, oh, well, the cameras weren't working, so it wasn't on video, so it's a false report, and locked my mom up for 72 days behind that. So to say that only black people go through these kind of things, that's why let's not lose the focus of the conversation that we're having, because it's not only a black-white thing. It's really something that's going on in society, period, and the cops should be held accountable. It's people problem.
It's a societal problem. It's a situation that we have cops that are abusing their power. It should never be looked at it's a race issue. I fail to understand how people are turning it into a race issue. At the end of the day,
it makes the actual situation of what happened seem so small when you try to blow up something else. You try to make it all about race and then take away from what happened to him, like the facts of the situation and the case.
Because seriously, situations like this shouldn't be happening. Nobody wants to be going to funerals. Nobody wants to be hearing that their son, grandson, or nephew has been shot or beaten to a pulp. I mean, honestly, to a lot of people, we're in 2023. I mean, come on. By now, we should have found other ways of doing things. The truth of the matter is, it's just, there should be another way to immobilize a person without having to shoot them and kill them, or without having to beat them into a pulp. And at the same time, as that goes, people need to also open their eyes. If you feel scared about any officers, just comply. Because at the end of the day,
deal with the rest later. All
Yeah.
that refusing to do whatever they're telling you to do in the heat of the moment, and you could tell that they're already pressed. That's when things go left.
Because they get frustrated, their anger goes over. You get frustrated, things get boil over. Everybody starts running. I mean, honestly, it could. I can't say it could have been worse because I mean he died. So at the end of the day, it hit the worst anyway. But you know, things could have escalated even more than just him could have gotten hurt.
Yeah.
And you know, it's sad that it came down to somebody losing his life for them to see that they need to make a difference and shut down this task force. But you know,
that's all for propaganda. At the end of the day, that's all for.
Because the sad part is when
the public, they don't actually care that he died.
After everything blows over, they're probably going to reopen it, rebrand it, and try and push it again. But you know, it's a program that everybody's been complaining about, and I just don't see why they never went and held community talks and actually found out why the community is refusing to have this. I mean, nobody wants to live in a community that's dangerous. So for them to say they don't want this task force, there has to be a reason. But anyway, I hope you guys watch and tell us what you think.
Stay safe out there. Just make sure that you keep the right things in mind and don't belittle a situation to make it like a group thing, the way that it seems to be trying to be done about this whole systemic racism, even though it was 5 black men who killed a black man. It shouldn't still circle back around to racism.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I just say, please don't fall into mob mentality and try and justify something that it isn't. The main problem that we need is we need some change in the way things are handled. And, you know, that change won't come if we keep on just running to the same card. Like and subscribe and comment, and please tell us what you think.